Hello everybody and welcome back to, well, quite a special Kerbal Space Program video. Because this one is not really a mission, it's more of a story. So here we go. Everybody remembers their first time. And everybody repeating that statement has no idea about the human brain. Or do you remember when you took your first steps, or when you went to the bathroom for the first time without diapers? I certainly don't. But one thing I do remember is my first attempt of building a space cruiser in Kerbal Space Program. I got into KSP after reading an article on Kotaku about someone building a 500-ton space cruiser and sending it into space. Well, that's what those cruisers are for. Well, turns out that guy was Reddit user Avaslash, and the ship was called Kaihopara. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I was so impressed by this that I had to try my own hand at a Kerbal Space Cruiser. So, the very creatively named Battlecruiser 1 was born. Looking back, it was a crude and not very thought out design. But back then I thought it was the awesomest ship that was ever created. Back then I also did not use any mods at all, so I had no idea how much Delta V that ship would have. Back then I probably didn't even know what Delta V meant. So imagine my sense of accomplishment when I finally got it into orbit, and also try to imagine my elation when I fired up those nuclear engines, aimed for Joule, and then got an encounter. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of that, nor from a lot of other parts of the mission. I managed to reach Joule, but that was about it. I then had to concoct other vehicles to refuel my cruiser, sent a lander assembly and then even more landers, because I crashed some on Tylo. Predictably, in hindsight, using the deadly contraption of 2 docked landers to accommodate for the lack of Delta V just one of them had, and then had to send a rescue mission, including a small rover to pick up the stranded crew of 2 and driving them back to the rescue lander, about 90 kilometers across Tylo's surface. Yay! All in all, it still was a glorious mission and a great sense of accomplishment. The final look at my cruiser after the crew had disembarked onto the crew return vehicle and went back home to Kerbin gave me a hard to describe feeling. I knew this was the end of one epic journey, but only the beginning of something greater. I planned on creating a video about that mission, but I wasn't able to record all of it, so all I got are a few clips, but nothing more, sadly. I did a lot of things since back then. But still to this day I get the greatest satisfaction building humongous cruisers. See also the very interior heavy K-Star Supreme, my Normandy recreation from the Mass Effect video game series, or the relatively nimble Ozymandias, which to this day I regard as one of my best designs ever. The arrival of the Mark III parts and the new aerodynamics changed a lot of how I design stuff. In my previous craft I would create a substructure out of fuel tanks and then sculpt the body out of wing parts, as I did with my first cruiser and also the K-Star Supreme. Nowadays I try to use tanks and other body parts in a way that they also act as design elements to keep part count low, or at least lower, and the aerodynamic effects during ascent low as well. And now I would like to show you a few examples of biggish cruisers I have built since the now legendary Battlecruiser 1. Let's start with the aptly named Battlecruiser Reborn. Instead of just using a weird docking structure to carry the landers, I can now use the dual docking bays. There is room for 32 passengers, not counting the 2 seats on the bridge and inside the side slab each. It weighs more than 500 tons and it can deliver about 4,800 meters per second of Delta V on one single Rhino engine. Next up is the Cross of Kerbin. It is similar in many regards to the other one, but it uses nuclear engines providing more than 6,600 of Delta V, while weighing about 420 tons. The name, of course, is due to its peculiar shape. Obviously. You may also have noticed one of my, well, let's say design perks using landing can as a bridge. Taking it up a notch is the Infinity 1, named of course for the crew section shaped in the form of an infinity symbol. Besides looking great, at least in my mind, this provides space for 48 Kerbals. 8,210 meters per second of delta V at 470 tons makes this a beast to be reckoned with in interplanetary space. If I see a similar design pop up in some sci-fi series or movie in the next month or so or years, I'm going to sue. Not joking here. And now to something a bit different. The Osiris. I intended to build an aerodynamic front section that could land on and return from all 5 jewel moons. A small ISRU and drill would make sure that that was possible. However, any design I'd tried up until now was flawed in one way or another. This one here has messed up aerodynamics and not enough delta V to make it back from lathe. Here we have the Argo. This is more in the vein of the Ozymandias, using vertical engines to land on anything from Minmus to probably even Duna. It contains a full science pack and also resource mining capabilities. But there are no separate landers. 16 passengers can fit inside a swooping fuselage, and some more quick facts: 6,370 meters per second of delta V and 250 tons. It also hides its engine within cargo ramps, purely for optical reasons only. I never used any of those designs in actual missions though. They were basically just exercises in spacecraft building. Sort of a showcase of what's possible in the KSP editor. What I did do was hyper-edit them somewhere in orbit or near the surface of Minmus in the case of the Argo, to see how they perform. What I do plan on using though is the Gargantua. Befitting its name, it weighs 2,030 tons and offers more than 10,000 meters per second of delta V and quite an appropriately sized cargo bay. You are never going to guess where I will take this beast, but that is for another video. So, as always, thanks for watching. Goodbye.